Tony D and Little Joan in the background, and a quick video before I gotta bug out of here, and we'll be doing the live stream later at 7. This is a screenwriting question, so let's put this under screenwriting tips. I had a comment that said, genuine question. This was under how to write a slasher movie. If I intentionally want to make the most generic slasher imaginable, like painfully predictable on purpose, do I still need to follow structure, or can I just let it completely fall apart for the bit? Almost kind of treating it like those stupid Hallmark movies with the same storylines, somehow, even though it's the most generic, predictable S ever, it still racks up the views. The answer is this, and I said something similar in the comment back. You really can't abandon the structure. Screenwriting is all about structure. If you don't have the structure, it is 99.999% likely your film will meander into mishmash and fall to pieces. And people won't follow it. People will be like, what? What the F? Now, that doesn't mean you can't make a different kind of slasher or a different kind of movie with a different third act. So, for instance, in No Country for Old Men, that's a movie that changes right around the second act, end of the second act. The movie changes. And it's very interesting. It's very interesting. But it does have 3-act structure. No doubt about it. But if you watch that movie, you go, whoa, what just happened here? I didn't expect that. That is really the balance. And only the most advanced screenwriters and filmmakers can pull this off. You know, a screenwriter, maybe you could find a great screenwriter or writer who could pull off a screenplay or a novel where the third act is, there's a fourth act and a fifth act, or there's only 2 acts. But it would be very unlikely the filmmaker would be able to pull that off. Likewise, you could have a filmmaker who would want to do something like that, and he could take a screenplay and then kind of butcher it. You have to be at like the top level to start playing with structure in the world of screenwriting and filmmaking. The absolute top, and even then, your chance of success, I would say, is low. So don't do it. Don't fly too close to the sun, especially if you're making a slasher movie. If you want to make a slasher movie different, you just have to surprise us. Stay within the structure, but surprise us. You know, you have to look at every slasher movie made and say, what could be different here? What would really surprise people is what you have to ask yourself. Now, you can't just throw something that completely flies in the face of logic, or the logic that you built in your screenplay. Making a character crazy, revealing that it was all a dream, stuff like that. Those are all cop-outs. But if you have a genuine difference, so if you look at the elements of a slasher movie, slasher movies involve a killer, and he's often very crazy. You could play with that. You could pick a guy who's killing people not because he's crazy, but for a reason. And you'd have to figure out a reason why he would kill so many people. That would be different. He's not nuts. Another thing that happens in slasher movies is the guy wears a mask, and he has a sort of an iconic weapon. You could play with that. Get rid of both those two things. Have a slasher. He's a master of disguise. He looks different every time. And really, the big payoff in a slasher movie is who the slasher is and why he does it. So if you could come up with different reasons that he does these things, you could play with the idea that the slasher is, I'm surprised no one's done this, where you set up a slasher movie And it turns out everybody in the movie is a slasher, a killer, and then the victim turns the tables on all the slashers. Like, that would be a ridiculous, parody of it, but I'm surprised no one's done something like that. The thing about slasher movies is they are pretty generic and pretty limited. You're talking about a subgenre. Now, if you expand outside of that to just a horror movie, you've got some more wiggle room, right? If you expand into something like a vampire or a werewolf or some other supernatural creature, you got a little more wiggle room there. You just got to make it different. So when people get to the end of it, they feel like, oh, wow, that was a crazy ride. I never saw that coming. That's one of the reasons I always talk about the process. So you want to follow the process. The process is, you still want to follow the structure, but the process is you always heighten, right? So if a character does something in Act 1 in one scene, you want to keep having the character do that thing, whatever it is. So if a character, I don't know, let's say the slasher always eats breakfast after a kill, you want to continue with that theme. And then, and keep having him eat for some reason. And then you play off of that theme. Well, why does he eat? Maybe he's a diabetic. Maybe he's a chef. Maybe it's something that his psychosis makes him do every time, and then the victim towards the end of the movie gets rid of all the food and he can't eat, so he can't kill anybody until he can find some food and eat breakfast. It's stuff like that. You play on whatever it is you've created and just heighten it and see where it takes you, because it often takes you to interesting places that are weird, and you realize, oh, this is different. So follow the process, follow the structure. And that's it for me, Tony D and Little Joan. Join us tonight on the live stream where we do it live. If you want to ask me more questions about screenwriting during the live stream, I'm happy to answer them. It starts at 7 right here on YouTube. We'll see you in the next one.